television, but you have to watch another show. There's got to be a reason that a kid has to obey. God has given you the reason. You get to live with me for eternity. How cool is that? How cool is that? And when you and I forget that that's the coolest thing ever, we will disobey. When we don't think God's cool anymore, when we don't think heaven is great, when we're not appreciative of the gift of the Holy Spirit in us, when we don't think that God is the most amazing being ever, then we will disobey. Because we get disconnected. So when my kids look at me and they go, he's not going to do anything. They're going to keep watching the television show. Or they're going to test me. How serious is this? And they'll keep watching the television show. Now I'm going to give them a minute or so. I'm going to give them a little bit of time to comply. Now this is the most important aspect, moms and dads. And kids, I just want you to know, I'm giving up your secrets. When you decide it is time to comply, moms and dads, and there is no movement in the life of your son or daughter, your son or daughter is saying no to you. They're saying no. You don't fight. You don't yell. You enforce the negative consequences. Whatever it is. You just turn off the television. No, and you can't watch television anymore. No, I was just getting, it's too late. You had that time to comply. You had that time to comply. I'm sorry. Now here's another Peter Buckland rule. I hate to tell this in front of the kids. Parents ought to be happy when they discipline, and children ought to be miserable. Parents should not be yelling and screaming and then apologize, and kids should not be happy, disobeying. It should be the other way around. It should be moms and dads doing things right and just going, well, I'm sorry, you just decided that you wanted to watch this television show, and I told you that we'd have to turn this off, and I told you in a minute I would do this, and I came in and I said, what? And you just went, oh, I just want to finish the rest. Click. It's off. You don't watch the television show. It should be off. We're not going to watch it, another piece of trash for a minute. It's done. We're not doing that. And then you enforce the consequences at the end of that. And you have to make sure that your children understand what's going on. Now, we raised our kids this way. And so I would just hand them positives. And I would say, I want to take you out for an ice cream party because you're a really cool kid and you listen really well. If we had a little bit extra money, we would go somewhere and we would just go blow it on calories and sugar. And every kid loves that. Or we would just, if our kids would do something really good, we would throw them the equivalent of a birthday party in our house that day. Austin, we had another rule that you're not to watch an R-rated movie, period. And then I changed the rule to say, when they got to be teenagers, if you could convince me to watch an R-rated movie that I would approve for you to watch, then you could watch an R-rated movie before you were 17. But when you were like below the age of 11, you were watching no R-rated movies. Don't even talk to me about it at all. Well, Austin was at a friend's house and their dad put in an R-rated movie while they were there in the room playing. And he left the room and he called us and he said, I just would really like to come home now. And when we picked him up, he said, Jessica's dad put in an R-rated movie and I know that you didn't want me to watch that, and so I just didn't watch it. We went home and we threw him a party. A party. I mean, ice cream, candles, everything. I mean, if we had a gift, we wrapped him up. The whole family celebrated a good decision. Why? Have you seen any R-rated movies lately? I mean, I haven't seen a whole bunch of them. But some of them are really bad for kids to watch. I mean, they're bad enough for us as adults with filters. I don't want him to think that it's okay at that age to be watching that kind of stuff. So we just threw him a party with all that. So there are always positive and negative consequences for all the behaviors. So kids that are here, and teenagers, lean over to your parents and say, what are some of the positive rewards that we can have here? Because those are the benefits. They're really freedoms. They're really freedoms that you have, which is really kind of cool. So we would just negotiate those with our kids. 15 more minutes of staying up because you're a good kid. I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to do that. You want to have a friend over for a time to be with them because you haven't seen them for a long time and you're a kid that we get along really well? Of course we can do something like that. You bet, because you're the kind of kid that you are. Now Audrey, when she was about 16 years old, had a really, really, really bad day with her mom. I mean, we're looking at Civil War bad. Just bad, 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 ugly day. And my wife told me that she was so frustrated and she felt like Audrey had really been extremely disrespectful. And I said, I'll take care of it for you. So when Audrey went to bed that night, I sat down on the bed and I said, Audrey, I know that you had a really rough day with your mom. And she said, yeah. And I said, here's what I want you to know. You have been just a super, super young lady. But I want you to know what your mom told me. You can't act that way toward your mom and still do all the things that you're doing. You just can't do that. So here's what I want you to know is if you tomorrow act the same way, then this is what it will cost you. You will no longer be able to go to early jazz band. She was a trumpet player. You can't go to early jazz band at school. It is not a right. It is just an extracurricular activity, and you get to do it because you're the right kind of kid. If you yell at your mom, if you can't handle that relationship, you can't do that. Secondly, I'm pulling you from Taekwondo class. How serious is that? If you know anything about respect in the martial arts, to be disrespectful is the cardinal sin. Absolutely the cardinal sin. I said, and I will make you tell your band teacher that you can't do this because you treated your mom so bad. And I will make you tell your martial arts teacher that you can't be in martial arts because you've treated your mother so bad. I mean, those, now we're getting somewhere. This is what's called the threshold of obedience. Every child needs to know you're serious by the consequences that you would pay. And I'm now playing for keeps. I am throwing the book at my daughter. You will not, when I am not at home, you will not, dare not, ever treat your mother like this again. I mean, Austin even hit his mom, and we just had the same kind of thing. He's now 6'3" and 300 pounds. He is a massively strong kid. And I said, you will never lay a hand on your mother, ever again. When he was a kid. I mean, there are these times that you must play for keeps. And so I just kind of went down the list of some things, and I said, I just want you to know, I love you. You get to make the decision. If you want to behave this way, then tomorrow, starting tomorrow, you do this. This is what's going to happen to you. She was perfect and never treated her mother like that again. How strong our privilege is? They are the bread and butter of life. Nobody wants to lose them. So when Audrey and I, after she graduated, and she was talking to me, she said, Dad, I didn't feel like I needed to rebel because look at all the things I get to do. I have a car, you pay for the insurance, I get to have my friends over, I get to do all of these things. Why do I want to lose that and have a bad relationship with you? Here's what I want you to know, moms and dads, you never, never, never win the heart of your kid by criticizing them or yelling at them. Never. Nobody ever changes their behavior, ultimately, by being criticized. They change their behavior when they're won over to a better way of doing things. And so you and I, from the development of responsibility, win them over by showing them a better way and by enjoying them. Now, I do know that this means time. I know that this means involvement. I know that this means you figuring out what are some ways that you can grow and develop. But what I want you to know is we didn't have rebellious kids. And we have a great relationship with all of our kids, of which I am incredibly pleased about, because I didn't grow up in a Christian family. I grew up in an alcoholic family. And so to have an entirely different expression has been really, really exciting for me to have. A couple more things, and I'm going to let you guys talk. Number 2, it says on here, the parents teach clear and specific guidelines about right and wrong. Those are the non-negotiables. Do your kids really know what you expect? Children are held responsible for their own moral behavior. I would just tell my kids that if you were big enough to act that way, you are big enough to receive the consequences. So if you're going to go out and cuss, you're going to receive the consequences for that. And they said, well, I didn't know that I would be punished that way. I said, well, then you just shouldn't cuss. Here's the other thing that I want moms and dads to know, is that you don't tell them everything you're going to do. You leave some things as surprises. And the reason for that is that the kids will figure out, am I willing to pay that price? And if they're willing to pay that price, and then they con you into holding on to that, then you have just created a disobedient child. So I want you to know this. You get to veto everything. Because you're the mom and dad. You're like God. So you can give them 3 consequences, or you can give them 25. And if you say, you know, if you take the car and you, like, you know, if you mismanage the car, these are the 3 things that will happen. And then you find out that there were like 3 other things that went on. Give them 5 more consequences. And they'll say, hey, that's not fair. You didn't say that. And you look at them and say, well, you didn't tell me that you were going to run the car through the neighbor's lawn. And you didn't tell me that you were going to take 3 people that were drinking beers in the back seat to some place. And you didn't tell me that, well, hold them responsible for their own moral behavior. And what happens is that they rise to the occasion because they look at that and they go, yeah, I'm going to fight you because I don't want to pay this price. But when they pay the price, they learn it. Number 4, family realizes that intent is crucial in judging behavior. Moms and dads, let me tell you this. The home should be the safest place to make a mistake. home should be the safest place. And here's what I want you to know. You know the heart of your child. If you can capture the heart of your child, if you know that your child has certain weaknesses, but that your child doesn't really like them, and all of a sudden your child does something, and you have had it because it's happened like 3 times that week, your child might not have intended to get up that day and do that, but might have just done it because it's one of the ongoing problems of your child. So what we started to do was to work with our kids to say, oh, it happened again. What are we going to do about it this time? And if you can distance yourself from it, it will actually be a little bit better. So the hard-hearted kid needs to be treated more directly, but the soft-hearted child that just gets in trouble or makes a mistake needs to be treated more carefully. And then 5, parents help children live morally. There needs to be moral guidelines for kids that moms and dads can help to create. So I want to give you a little bit of time to talk, like 5 or so minutes. And what I like to do for those of you that are joining us is I like for you to just kind of talk about what you're hearing about. I mean, what do you like? What do you have questions about? What kind of captures your attention with that? And I would like to answer whatever questions that I can after that off of your discussion, that I could clarify something or talk some more about it before I show you some of the other material that's in here that you can begin using for responsibility. So if you're a student in here, talk about what you like that you hear or what you don't like that you hear with your moms and dads, if you want to do that. And just take a little bit of time. If you need to use the restroom or something or get candy, this will be a good time for you to do that also. So let me give you about 5 minutes or so, and then we'll share some of what you're talking about.